if you used to play a sport, any sport, and you stopped, your body didn't just get less fit. There's three specific muscles that shut down in order, not because they got weak, because your nervous system reclassified them as unnecessary. And that's a completely different problem than out of shape. And it needs a completely different fix. Here's why training harder doesn't necessarily fix this. Strength training talks to your muscles. This shutdown lives in your nervous system, the part of you that decides which muscles are safe to load. You can add weight to a lift for years and never reteach your nervous system to trust a muscle it already decided to bench. And that's the gap this board explains for you. So here's the trigger and the mechanism behind it. Athletic movement, cutting, sprinting, decelerating, requires your nervous system to keep certain stabilizers online under unpredictable load. The day you stopped, that unpredictable load disappeared. Your nervous system doesn't keep muscles on standby for a demand that's gone. It's efficient, so it downgrades the priority of anything not being asked to work. That downgrade, it isn't a decision that you make. It's automatic, and it starts within weeks, not years. Stretching one of these muscles is like turning off the fire, like I've said in the past. It's turning off the fire alarm instead of putting out the fire. The muscle isn't tight from being short, it's guarded, which means it's contracting to protect the joint and no longer trust to be stable. So now, what we're going to walk through is the three muscles that shut down in a chain. So here, we have muscle number one, the glute medius. Its job is to stabilize the pelvis under load. Now, this is great for cutting, deceleration, and single leg landings. Now, what happens is when the sport stops, the lateral demand disappears. And once you stop loading it unpredictably, the nervous system stops sending it priority signals. So its firing patterns get slower and weaker, not from atrophy, from disuse at the signal level. Now, when the glute med does go quiet, your pelvis drops on the stance side, so it's the Trendelenburg pattern. Your QL overloads to compensate. Your QL goes into constant contraction, which leads to lower back pain. Now, this is the trap that you seem to fall into. Everyone who treats the quadratus laborum, nobody restarts the QL and the glute med. So the QL is the hostage, it's not the kidnapper, so to speak. Now, number two, your serratus anterior. The role is scapular anchor. It holds your shoulder blade to the rib cage. Now, what it is used for as athletes, throwing, pressing, overhead patterns, even swimming. When sport stops, overhead coordination demand disappears. Now, when the serratus goes quiet, your scapula wings off your rib cage, your thoracic spine rounds forward, and your shoulder rotates internally. So there becomes then a shoulder impingement along with rotator cuff compression. Now the trap, your rotator cuff work doesn't hold. External rotation band drills don't hold. The anchor is gone. You got to fix the serratus first. And number three, your diaphragm. And this is a postural function. It's not just a breathing muscle, it also stabilizes the spine. So it's the sealing of the core canister, and it coordinates with your pelvic floor. Now, what it does for us, it's high respiratory load, but also explosive bracing through the core and athletic coordination. When sport stops, what tends to happen is your postural stability function degrades. Now, your left side is your breathing function, and it stays on because it has to. Your right side, your postural stability function, dials down. And what happens then is the diaphragm and pelvic floor decouple, your core canister loses pressure sealing, intra-abdominal pressure. Also, your TVA doesn't fire in balance with everything that's going through. So when you go to brace your core, it's not working with you. You have to overly think about it before you squat, deadlift, or do any other compound lift. Your force leaks on every rep you do. So what then occurs is you have hip and lumbar overload. The trap. This is why your core looks trained, but it doesn't stabilize. So what I say by that is someone can have a six-pack of abs. Yeah, it's aesthetically pleasing, but it doesn't do the job of the functionality of your entire core. Your core's functionality is to stabilize the spine at any plane of movement. So the ceiling is missing. Activation work for it can't fill that gap. Okay, so the shutdown in order is the glute med, your serratus, and your diaphragm. This is really most sports specific for the glute med, most overhead movements for the serratus, and most systematic for everything in the body, your diaphragm. Okay? So what we move here, now we go into the restart chain. And I want to break down why stretching alone doesn't work. And here's the mechanism. A muscle can be electrically active, meaning it's guarding, holding tension as a protective reflex without being anatomically short. Stretching does lengthen the tissue. It does nothing to the nervous system to trust that body or that tissue. So you stretch it, it feels loose for 20 minutes, and it retightens by the next day. Not because the stretch didn't work, but because you never addressed the reason it was holding tension in the first place. So the restart chain. The restart has to follow nervous system logic, not muscle logic, which is why the order is reversed. So as you see here, we got to start with the diaphragm. So the diaphragm gets reactivated first because it's the gatekeeper. It's the stabilizer the other two were compensating around. So nothing downstream can recalibrate until it comes back online. So the goal of starting at the diaphragm is reestablishing postural stability function. How we do that is 90-90 breathing with pelvic floor coordination. Put 2 feet up on a wall, keep your knees bent at 90 degrees, and focus on breathing through the belly. This is not relaxation, this is rebuilding the ceiling. So in order for you to understand if it's working, you want to see the rib cage expand 360 degrees. So put one hand on your stomach, one hand on your chest, and if you notice that your stomach rises before your chest, then you're doing what is called 360 degree breathing. If not, your chest is rising, and this is where you really need to start. So your canister now has a ceiling again. Number 2, your serratus anterior. The goal is to re-anchor your scapula to the rib cage under mild load. How we do that is wall slides, serratus push-ups, scapular protraction holds. You must have diaphragm stability before loading your serratus anterior. The cue here is that the shoulder needs a floor before it can be loaded. Now, once that anchor is restored, we go to the glute medius. Now, the glute medius can only fire correctly once the other two share the load instead of dumping it all on the glute med. Reverse the order and you're rebuilding strength on the same broken map. So our goal is to reload lateral stability. Now the system has pressure and anchor above. Entry drills, clamshells, banded lateral walks, single leg stance progressions. Now, I want you to know this. It happens in order, and you need to focus on the order. You have to have nodes 1 and 2 before this holds. So you got to focus on your diaphragm and serratus anterior before your glute med is able to function properly. Now that the activation work actually sticks, it's because the container is set. Follow this in order, your chain is restarted. So this is what happened without you knowing. And this is the shutdown in order to go to the restart sequence. One guarding response triggering the next. On the green side, the exact same 3 muscles, same dependencies, restarted in reverse. This is the entire logic of my athletic restoration system in one image alone. Okay? Now, for the protocol. In step number 1, I map where your chain broke with you. Step number 2, we identify which muscles have shut down first and reverse engineer how to restart the sequence. Step 3 is restarting the sequence from the bottom up, and step 4 is loading. So progressive demand reintroduced in order. This is a very systematic approach and a step-by-step approach that is non-negotiable. And if this is something that you are going through, something that the light bulb went off in your head, like, wow, this is exactly what I deal with on a daily basis, I want you to book your one-on-one call today by clicking the link in the description. I'm going to map your shutdown pattern and show you where to start. Fix your pain, find your purpose.